President Donald Trump still speaking to the joint chambers of Congress at this time, not labeled as a State of the Union, but it served basically the same purpose, the presidential address to the country, that Trump delineating some of his accomplishments in just over a month in office. Now, before this thing began, there was a promise that there might be some unruly behavior, and there was. And Speaker of the House Mike Johnson from Bossier Parish got involved.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports.
I mean, that was kind of a shocking moment, I guess, there, where Mike Johnson got involved. And then, of course, the president started delineating some of his executive orders, at least, as in his first 44 days in office. What do you think of that, Stephen, where Mike Johnson got involved?
Well, you know, I think it talks to the tenor and tone that this country has sort of disintegrated in. I'll go back to, I believe, when Marjorie Taylor Greene stood up and pointed her finger and wanted a State of the Union's address. And I'll go back to when one of the representatives hollered, "You lied," to President Obama. It's just sort of just a continuation of that kind of situation, and it's unfortunate on either side of the aisle. We have to have decorum, and you know, kudos to the Speaker for enforcing decorum, but we should enforce decorum when both presidents are in power.
And then, Lewis, at that point, we had to put that together pretty fast because it's live and it's still ongoing.
Sure.
But President Trump talking about his executive order barring women from, or men from playing in women's sports, which last night, the Democratic side of the aisle, not one person stood up for that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what he was talking about all night, and he's still talking, obviously, it are the things that the voters sent him to support. And he has a mandate with regards to the women's sports. You know, why would you not want to protect women and women's sports in terms of, you know, he used the example, one of the guests had been injured and partially paralyzed from an injury, volleyball, where I guess a transgender athlete hit the ball so hard that it injured her.
I'm not sure who really is in favor of that. It seems a little strange. Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree, but I think what we need to make sure that we remember is that this election was an election about the economy, and so folks are looking to President Trump to talk about the economy and make the economy better. So far, all we've seen is unnecessary tariffs, terminations, and basically creating tension around the world by cozying up to Vladimir Putin and distancing ourselves from our allies with Ukraine, Canada, and Mexico.
And those tariffs went into effect today on Mexico,
and
Canada.
We saw what happened in the stock market.
Yeah, the stock market went down, but one of the 8 eternal truths of the stock market is it will always overreact, and then it'll bounce back again a few days later. I mean, it just does that. But as far as the tariffs are concerned, Lewis, hasn't America always been kind of operating at a bad deficit?
Absolutely. In fact, South Korea has 4 times the tariffs on our automobiles. And we give the South Koreans a great deal of our money in terms of protection from our military. And beginning April the 2nd, President Trump announced during the speech reciprocal tariffs. And that is that any country that puts a tariff or otherwise limits American goods from their market, we will reciprocate. So if you're putting a tariff on American goods, America is going to do the same. And I don't understand why folks feel that's not fair, or that that's not necessary.
Well, while we were scrambling to get together here, I think the president may have gotten to talking about Ukraine. I'm not sure yet, and he's still talking, so I'm not positive. But what was your reaction, Stephen, to what happened in the Oval Office last Friday?
Yeah, I was disappointed in that particular situation. I'm trying to figure out what happened to the Republican Party that stood up to the Soviet Union and tore down the Berlin Wall. Ronald Reagan must be turning over in his grave to have seen what he saw with us cozying up to Vladimir Putin.
What are your thoughts,
come on,
Aaron?
come on. Look, we're trying to create peace. We're trying to reach some sort of peace. We want to stop this war. And that is what the American people want. And very frankly, in terms of global opinion, we want peace. And the only way to do that is to stop this war. And the only way to do that is to get those two folks together and not bring up all of the atrocities of the past. We've got, and the
But
question.
the war wouldn't have started had Putin not started.
And the question is for many Americans who say, I stand with Ukraine. Well, we're out of time.
Yeah, we are. I love having these guys together. They are fun. They give good insight, and Skip Cordes gives good weather. Let's go back over to him.